Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycle presents Shop Talk Tuesday. If it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, well, guess what? It is Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, thank you for joining me. And if you're watching this on the replay, please put some comments below, like and subscribe if, all the YouTube and also Facebook things and all that and well. But we got a packed show today and just want to let you know that, hey, it is a Bicycle World Day. Whoa, June 3rd, celebrating the highlights of, let's see my script here. Let's see here. Get ready to celebrate the joy of cycling, the World Bicycle Day, June 3rd, 2025. Hopefully it's nice in your neck of the woods so you can actually go enjoy a day of riding, and it's on Tuesday, so a lot of you are probably working anyway, or you're listening to me in the shop going, I wish I was on my bike, but yet I'm going to be working on a few. Got a couple things to feature what I'm going to be doing this week. Came back from Viva Las Vegas and had an awesome little interview with Swanee Cycles. So thank you, Swanee Cycles, for letting me come over and hosting me to do the Shop Talk Tuesday at your location last Tuesday. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great insights of the cycling community in Las Vegas, and actually got out on a few rides around the Summerlin area and so forth. So it was awesome. So yes, it was great. Joe, thank you for joining in. Appreciate it. Yes, and without further ado, let's just dive into this. It's been a kind of a chaotic week. Well, needless to say, driving to Vegas, which is a 12-hour drive for me for where I'm at, and driving back with the family, both directions, was, it gets a little tiring. We did pretty well overall, having an electric car and all that, so it did pretty good. And the stay there this is what the crazy interesting thing is it was 90s to 100 degrees there, and we come back to Colorado, and it was 80s yesterday, but today is, I think, a high of 53. So a little chilly here. Therefore, I mean, you can still go out and ride, obviously, just layer up and go, but there we go. Hopefully we're back. Sorry for the interruption there. Any case, it's been a crazy week, not just personally, as well as some news hit while I was in Las Vegas about Specialized closing their facility here in Colorado. In the video I mentioned is Boulder, which is close to Louisville. The actual facility is in Louisville, so my bad, sorry. I knew that because it was the same building that was occupied by Pearl Izumi when Shimano owned Pearl Izumi back in the day. And I knew Specialized moved in there, and as well as across the street was the Pros Closet. With the Pros Closet being no longer there, that's an empty building. And through comments, and thank you for those who were commenting on the video, gave a little extra insights of one person mentioned that he worked for a company that was trying to acquisition that building, and Specialized outbid them. Therefore, they do own that building. So it's probably I would say partial liquidation of assets, obviously, and moving some people, if they're willing to move, to a relocation, and that's a big thing. And I did not realize it'd be such a touchy nerve of people thinking of moving from Boulder or Louisville, Colorado to Morgan Hill, California, which is a beautiful place, and yes, but I just noted that there's a disruption with any kind of cross-country move for any family. That was really the main point of it, and going to a place of where it's a little bit more cost of living is a little bit higher, and the suggestion of moving the facilities to Salt Lake City, where their big primary warehouse of one of two apparently that they have would be probably a better move. But hey, it is what it is, and it's interesting what people have chimed in about, and boy, some people are really touchy about, I was not dogging California whatsoever. I just know there's a contrast between living in Colorado versus California, and therefore the cost of living, the quality, it is how you perceive it. That's how it is. So in any case, didn't want to cause any disheart and ruffle anybody's feathers. California is a nice place. Been there several times. I've had family and still have family living out there. So it is great. It's fine. It's just different. That's all I got to say. As a business perspective of it, just specialized moving, and you can watch that video. It's linked below in the description if you're watching this on replay. But in any case, it is one of those just. It's basically when you see something like that, it kind of pulls the curtain back behind the company itself or the industry that we're looking at. And a lot of these companies are not going to be very upfront of like, we're having a crap issues and we're trying to figure it all out. Unfortunately, that's the state of the state we're in, and compounded on a downward trend as well. So we're in a new norm, and which basically puts us at the title of like, shops are struggling and we're in a turmoil state, a turbulent state. I mean, we just can't, we don't know what's going to happen around the next corner. Hopefully it's positive. And then everything's very uncertain. And that goes from top to bottom, bottom to top throughout the whole industry. So this is my little perspective. Being a garage shop, small little business, but I've been in the industry for 35 years, therefore have a little bit of insights of working for bigger shops and also chain locations, also a big bad chain store called Big Five Sporting Goods over some of those years. So in any case, with that perspective, just you know, one of those things. All right, let's see who's in the chat, chatting it up. Noah, thank you for joining us. Having a good week. It's going to be a great week. I'm going to give you some bullet points, what's going to be happening here. I just want to kind of touch upon the specialized video a little bit there. That, you know, it's going to be a great week. Got some good stuff going on. And Joe, thank you for chiming in. I hope it's getting a lot warmer in your neck of woods, getting out there and doing some riding for sure. Oh, the electric car that we have is, now you got to put me on the spot. It's the Aria from Nissan. We got the Platinum one, which has all the bells and whistles on it. Mainly because of not this. It's mainly because of my wife's salary, which she's you know, the doctor, and that's what her salary enables me to do this, because honestly, you can't do this and live. I mean, I don't know. You can, but it is very, very challenging. As everybody knows, that if you guys are watching from bike shops, it's not something that we do to, we're not going to make a lot of money doing this, but we enjoy it. This is our passion, and this is how I live. And yes, the electric car did fairly well. Charges up to around 90%, gives you about 100 or 220, 230 miles. We do about 2-hour shots each time to recharge, and that seemed to work really well with us. And then again, you know, I have a 9-year-old and a dog, and we all need breaks after a couple hours anyway. So it really wasn't that much disruptive in time in any case. Yeah, it's a fun little EV car, very comfortable. Yeah, definitely. Not a plug for Nissan Arias, but we have actually 2 of them. But in any case, Tony, thank you for chiming in. Yeah, this is kind of just, you know, just going off the cuff. I got a little bit of script, but whatever the case. Gen Z is call that triggering. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of triggering things. Yeah. And SLC, that would be Salt Lake City, would it? Now we're going good in Utah. They can relocate to California. Yeah, we don't need you. We're good. All right. Yeah. SLC. Oh, SLC. That reminds me of SLC Punk, which is an old movie back in the 80s. Anyway, you know, background of punk rock, whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah. Interesting. We've been invaded by a lot of other states have a lot more expensive living, which basically the real estate's a lot more expensive. And those particular states, those individuals will sell off their homes with the equity in their homes. We're able to, within the last like 10 years ago, able to come to Colorado and buy a house outright. So we've had a huge influx from people from California and Texas and other states where the cost of living is a lot higher, or for the state of real estate, let's put it that way, a lot higher. So we're still seeing that today. So, you know, when you look at that background of it, it's a great influx of customers, obviously. And, you know, as a Coloradoan, it's still warmly received. We still have space. And some people do gripe about being congested and so forth. That's just part of it. As long as it's somewhat controlled and organized build, so it's not too messy in the long run, that's great. So, in any case, welcome. Anyway, I mean, I'm just, that's how we are. In any case. Oh, cool. Joe, thank you for chiming in. Cool owner of the bike shop I was at in Winnipeg, one of those cars with electric. He likes it. Yeah, it's kind of, it's the new thing. It's nice, and it's kind of nice to not knowing, well, I mean, you do have some of a footprint for the cars to be built, but after that, at least you feel a little bit better about yourself, that kind of thing. But for us, the cost is actually really low, kind of like bikes in the sense when you're doing EV commuting on bikes, segue into e-bikes. In any case, only costs us like $20 extra on an electric bill just to charge. Although road trips are a little more expensive, but most like other than road tripping, all the local driving, we're able to charge up from home. So it's a good win-win. Yeah, and then behind you as you're seeing me, I clear everything out so the car can get in. So yes, it still is a garage that you put a car in. Very tricky. But in any case, been able to capitalize on every square inch and always trying to self-improve my workspace because that part is not expanding anytime soon. In any case, thank you for chiming in. Thanks, Joe. Tony, thanks again for chiming in. So some kind of a fire cell moving cell. No, I don't think so, Tony. The facility I've never been in the facility in Louisville here in Colorado, but I think it was part of the retool, which was their fit systems that they purchased, that system, and then all the specialized, not all the corporate stores, but they've pushed that on a lot of specialized retail stores will have that retail fitting system in there. But in any case, that's their version of it. Trek, by the way, has their own versions called Precision Fit. I can't say it right. Anyway, not enough coffee. But yeah, I think it was a combination of that, and I'm not sure. It was more of offices, I would assume, instead of a retail space. Maybe they had some demo bikes or what have you. But in any case, the 50 employees are more corporate style individuals. I don't think they're going to do any kind of a fire sale there unless they have inventory, but most likely they're going to be shifting it since the disruption of the tariffs that are affecting majority of the products that are specialized makes, because those are all being produced. Well, the bike portion anyway is from Merida, and then they have various other companies making other products like the bags and the shoes and everything else is going to be either Taiwanese or Vietnam or Cambodia, whatever those particular warehouses, and possibly even China too. So that all being said, and the disruption and basically paralyzing all the companies that do most of their products in those particular countries, it's really troublesome. And basically whatever inventory they have in the United States right now, they're basically going to sit on, just like Trek is doing now, and kind of sell through that, because whatever's coming in the door is going to be affected by those increased prices. Therefore, they need to recover that. And all those companies, that's the only long-term perspective that they have it's in front of them. So in case in point, there's a couple other companies I'm going to talk about here shortly, which are going to be or have been affected and going to be changing. But Specialized is an international company, therefore they sell bikes all around the world. So it's not just the United States market. So Joe up in Canada is going to be able to get a Specialized bike that it's not going to be affected by the American United States tariffs. So he's going to get a little bit he can get product because they're going to not slow down the product into those particular countries versus the United States, where we're kind of holding the bag on it as consumers, which fortunately, well, for me, it really drives into the used market. So with a lot of shops, they're starting to leverage the used market. Those who have not even used it but leveraged it before are now really entertaining the idea of how do we get this into our folded mix of products that we sell on the floor, due to the fact that you're not paying extra tariffs and you bring the prices down for customers coming in. So in any case, that's a little sidebar on that. All right. Yeah, I don't think, yeah, Specialized, I don't think is going to be, I mean, they'll probably have sales just in general, especially on inventory that's way too much, that kind of thing. But overall, you may have local sales from local individually owned Specialized stores may have, or the carry Specialized may have some models that are not having any luck moving, and they may discount them, that kind of thing. Yeah, and so yeah, no, I have a good point. So when you're talking about moving people to a different place where the cost of living, their salaries are going to have to go up to even warrant to even move, unless they're making already double six figures. But when you look at it's they're selling the building, they're making some coin there, most likely. And the savings is not going to be the staffing of it for sure. And they may have some loss because some people are just not going to move. They're going to be like, all right, I'll just find another job here or work for another company remotely. All depends on their individual dynamics. So I don't believe those 50 some employees, all of them are going to move. I mean, with any kind of move, even on a good day, I don't think we'll have a change in nutrition there. Hmm. Good point, Joe. The rest of the bike brands, they have Canadian distributors. They are not subjected to U.S. tariffs. Yep, and Canadian counter tariffs. So not too bad here. So for the U.S., it's not that great, but yeah, yeah. So that's a very interesting. I'm sure Canada, as well as all other countries, have tariffs on other countries. But they're probably more in line of not being so disruptive. Let's just put it that way. Not wanting to harp on that too much, but when you're looking at like it, what we had a couple when I worked at Retail Toolkit. We did have a couple clients that were in Canada, so I got to dive into their inventory and talk to the shop owners and so forth. And there's I forget like Mike's Bikes, which is not affiliated with the Pond Holding Mike's Bikes. Is different Mike's Bikes of Canada. I think they were more towards the East Coast side. Um, and Woodcock Cycles, which is more north, straight north, I believe. I think they were in Edmonton. I'm not sure. It's been a while, so those brain cells have kind of left the station. But in any case, talking to them back in the day when they're managing inventory and so forth, we're going to talk about that for a little bit, Joe. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, if that's changed. That they pretty much would have to do pre-bookings, and basically that's pre-ordering for the season because they only got a certain amount. They didn't leverage the warehouses like they did here in the United States, is kind of front load them and then you just sell off over the season. There was basically, if you didn't order it in your preseason, you're not going to get it. Is more of that kind of perspective. Like then they had to make all. That's where the Retail Toolkit program was very impactful for those shops because they can actually see in real time the dollar amounts and algorithm and help them do those projections of what they need to order for the next season because they had a 6 to 9 month window to fill in that particular inventory. So it's more of like if you don't buy it, you're not going to get it, or if you don't order it and you don't get it, you're going to lose opportunities for sales. So a little bit different kind of perspective of ordering here in the States. Well, it used to be but that is going to change, I'm sure. Is we used to just basically ordered when we needed it, and like we may pay a little bit extra premium, except for the bike pre-season. Also, there's also the vendor agreements that you would have to have if you're not familiar. When you're like, if you're like any of these brand dealers, like they want an X amount of bikes being purchased to hit a certain dollar amount to get certain discounts, as well as combination. Specialized was really known for this of like you need to carry X amount of body geometry component or clothing and shoes and so forth. You have that dollar amount. Even though you may not sell it in your market, you're going to take it anyway, just to be a dealer. So that has changed a little bit, but back in the day, they were really kind of forcing different, plethora. I mean, they had, they still do have a ton of stuff. And that's where Trek and Specialized has not said it, but Trek has definitely said we need to downsize, which they killed 40% of their SKUs. That was like a year, almost 2 years now, coming up, or was that last year? Anyway, time's funny. But in any case, the inventory flux is no longer what it used to be as a small shop. I still run off that premise of if I need it, I just order it. I'm not going to front load my store or invest that much money just to sit there and not hoping to get turns off of it. So a lot of bike shops have been that way, and they stockpiled a little bit during COVID, but now they're going back that direction. If they have to pay a little bit more, they have to pay a little more. It's just, you can't run your business on like, oh, I'm going to buy like $10,000 worth of rubber because it's at the better price now, not knowing what's going to happen, that kind of thing. It's just, you can't tie up your money anyway. You got to be a little more diverse. Let's see here. Joe's saying that Mike's Bike Shop. Drapery, New Brunswick. Okay. Used to go there all the time in the 90s when I was still the original owner. Yeah, I think I met the guy that actually took over. He's a nice guy. It was really funny. It's like they have a pretty good perspective. Yeah, but yeah, Mike's Bikes was a pretty nice shop. In any case, it was part of the P2 group of Lee's Cyclery. So the owner of Lee's where I worked at, knew him well too. Yeah, I mean, Michael, you're correct. Rubber always sells. I mean, that's a consumable for bikes. You got your chains, rubber, cables and housing, grips, tape, that kind of thing. Sure. But then again, you're looking at a lower cost dollar amounts on those, but hopefully a little bit deeper margin. So you can actually, that's, which all service departments are trying to leverage. They give you that tune-up, $100 tune-up, and they sell you a chain. Well, they're hoping to make another 10 to 15 bucks, 20 bucks, depending on the level of chain. Dollar on that chain, and tires, same thing. But back in the day, they used to call it Keystone, which was double amount. So you basically buy the tire for 10 bucks and you sell it for 20. Apparently, the margins on that eroded over the years, and apparently nobody's getting that anymore. So that really kind of derails causes a lot of struggling. And then you had a 10% increase from J&B, which is a wholesaler that sells directly to bike shops, which they're known to be a little more expensive anyway, kind of like the 7-Eleven parts back in the day. But even then, that snowball effects to QBP and some other brands. But for the consumer, for the silver lining, what I've seen so far, Jensen's USA, where I get a lot of my stuff because it's just cheaper, used to be, Jensen's USA used to be a wholesaler back in the 90s, and they flipped in the early 2000s to direct to consumer. They're based out of California. California, nice place to live, big warehouse. In any case, their chains, a lot of them, like the SRAM chains and Shimano chains, a few of them are still on sale. A couple of their parts and other things are still on sale. And what I've seen, like on the regular, I had to buy some bar tape for my neighbor. Actually, I'm working on her bike, which is a Cannondale. I got some lizard tape for 47 bucks, which is about the same price. I guess it might be a couple bucks more than the $44 price point, but for a $3 difference, at the end of the day, is not affecting the consumer too much if it's only, that's about a 10% increase there. But looking at the brake pads, I had to replace on the cartridges were on sale for 11 bucks per, so that's not a bad deal. So when you're looking at, there's still deals out there to be had. Some companies are still working on that, and they may already stockpiled a lot of this because some of these companies have been kind of hoarding. But in the day, though, our economy is softening in the sense that people are not very comfortable buying a lot of stuff right now. So the sale transactions are slower going into the season. Therefore, you got to sell something. That's at least money coming in the door versus you can't sit on it for too long. Let's just put it that way. So there's going to be a break point on some of that when it comes to like trek bikes and specialized bikes that only can sit on for so long. Although they are generating income from other countries. But when you're looking at Jensen's USA, only one warehouse in the United States, that's it. That might be a different thing. Rick, that's what, yeah. Rick, yeah, from Mike's Bikes. Thanks, Joe, for reminding me. Is the current owner. He used to work as a mechanic at Bunsgay's bike shop. I butchered that, I'm sorry, back in the day. He was a nice guy. I met him a couple times, virtually. And He was a pretty good guy, very passionate about cycling, about his shop. Hated his brands because they were all pushing on it, but he was big enough to tell him to just go jump off a bridge. I mean, he had to get to that level of size of a shop, and that, we were in Parker Bikes was a small shop, so we were basically just the slapped around stepchild. I don't say that meanly. I am a stepchild technically, but in any case, that being said, when you got big enough, Bike Market was another one in Texas, was one of our clients. They carried Specialized and Trek, and they did such a big volume. They bluntly told me, it's like, if they didn't like something that was coming from those brands, they just tell them straight up, that's not how they're going to do it. And they're not gonna do anything to them because they do such high volume. There's like, well, we're not gonna buy these, period. It's like, and they don't like that. The Specialized and Trek, they didn't. Now, because they got to the point they were overconfident, and the market had basically dictated that. But now the market's completely changed, and we're in a different scenario, and we don't know. And the scary part is like the other part of this, we're in turbulent waters, but everything's so damn uncertain. Even for me, I mean, I got a lot of levers I can still work and leverage and so forth, but I'm on a micro scale perspective. So I have a lot of different directions I can work on. I have been working a lot of different directions to leverage or actually, keep my business going. So, and I'm doing okay so far. And I'm more than happy to share my successes. If you're in a shop and you're willing to share, please put the comments in the chat or put it in the comments below. And yes, I'm trying to build a community here of bike riders and bike shop peoples, and it's just like we're all, it should be a big happy family and just kind of supporting each other. And that's basically at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to shoot for. Any case, yeah, Rick Snyder, yep, awesome. Great stuff. Thanks, Joe. Memory lane. Whew, that was not too long ago either. In any case, I think they're doing okay. Hopefully up there in Canada. Woodcock is another guy. I'm friends with him on Facebook. I totally space his name, but same kind of concept. They're doing pretty good. That kind of thing. Although their seasons are probably, I mean, Joe, you can probably chime in on this. I mean, I'm sure your seasons are a little bit shorter, but then again, you just have a lot more clothes to wear to ride longer. So to extend that season as long as possible. But yeah, it's just going back to the Specialized and moving their people. This is nothing new. Companies do this all the time. It's just right now it's kind of really got to, push those levers. The other topic that was, and I haven't made a video on it yet. I'm not sure if I will or have time to, let's put it that way. But the other, I would say, Debbie Downer of last week is, if you ever heard of Kent International is a bike company. It's been around a long time. It started off as a family business. They produce bikes and have bikes built, and they primarily sell to Walmart, Target, a Sports Academy, and south of the United States, southeast, Florida area. They're the counterpart of the Big Five, but they also sold the Big Five sporting goods too. They are like your entry level big box brand stores and so forth. So about a month ago, 2 months ago, they basically said, we're not ordering anything. Right now, all our orders are on hold from China, and then primary bikes are being made in China. Hard stop. Which is a bummer because product lines going into Walmart are going to start dwindling in availability when they start selling through, which we'll be seeing that in the next 2 to 4 weeks to a couple months. I've seen a lot of videos of the Ozark brand, right? That's the Kent bike line. So when you're seeing that from Active Matty doing a review of the Ozark gravel bike, that bike is one of many that's going to be affected. The big kind of shoe that dropped last week was they did announce they're going to be closing their factory, which was assembly factory. Don't get me wrong, all the parts are made overseas and they put it together here, in which a lot of companies were kind of doing that or trying to do that. That's about as close as you're going to get to manufacturing for big volume in the United States anyway. That's what they were doing. They were assembling it. Guardian Bikes is another one, was in this topic news where Guardian, basically, this had been in the works prior to all this going on, but probably a year or two back, they were going, hey, we need to expand our warehouse, our assembly plant. They're going to do all assembling within it. They're not going to be, I don't think they're going to be welding the frames there and doing paint and like the truck was doing back in the day, like full assembly, but the raw materials still come from somewhere else. So therefore, they're still going to be affected by that. But going back to Kent doing their pre-assembling plant of Univega, it didn't say specifically Univega, I don't think in the article, maybe it did, but that's probably the plant they were referring to. And being the Univega, let me see what I pulled up here. 64 workers are going to be laid off by the end of the month, June. And just looking here, they're blaming the high tariffs and the China-made componentry and frames are being used at the facility. So that's basically one of those big brands that Kent International owned, is Univega, is going to be basically put on hold, and that's it. Like, and they have a couple other brands too. They are also affiliated, or actually made the website called Meadow Bikes. You can find that link below, where they had like 3 or 4 different brands under the Meadow umbrella that they're selling through. They're trying to make it look like it's basically their portal of selling off inventory that is kind of dead stock for them. For example, let's say you did a order for Walmart, right? And you got 400, let's say 4,000 bikes. And your production run, you got 4,500 bikes, and Walmart's only taking 4,000, you got 500. Well, 500 is not going to fulfillment for anybody else really. So, because they're bigger volume, they want bigger dollar amount, bigger quantity amounts. So it's kind of like leftovers, like the trimming, the leftover trim. So they basically made this site to sell those off at a lower discounted price. So that's kind of how it works. And actually you can find some really good deals by that byproduct of business, however that's working. I think that's how it works. That's the conversations I had with them. Also in that link below, there's also a discount code, which you can get a percentage off of whatever's already super discounted too, on top of everything. So, although, interesting fact though, is I was watching one of their bikes and it was at $200. Now it's at $450 in the last month and a half. So those prices definitely been reflecting the change of what they're being affected by the tariffs. All right. Oh, hey, Joe, thanks for chiming in there. Yeah, cross-country skiing is popular. Yep. Same here. Well, downhill skiing is huge here. Winter sports, snowshoeing, that kind of thing too. Michael, thank you for chiming in. Let's see, we're looking for a couple mechanics in Las Vegas. Anybody out there is interested? Nice. Hey, Michael. Definitely within the chat here, but also put it in the comments below and tell us what shop and what kind of shop. That'll narrow it down. You never know. Somebody might be. Let me tell you what, the cycling out there was freaking fabulous. I had a great time riding out there. Loved it. I mean, the weather is more tempered. It's dry. Even though it was hot, it was still a lot of fun. Beautiful. Went through, almost got to the Red Rocks area. It's just amazing. And I rode up on a couple of groups, and they were just like, "Hey, how are you?" It was very inviting and welcoming. A cycling community it put a big smile on my face. That's the kind of culture that we all should have. It was great. In any case, Randy, you haven't missed too much. Just me, just jibber jabbering. Late to the party, but hey, it's better being late than not showing up at all. did burn off a script, but it's going to be loosely based off of it. I'm going to talk about the struggles of and the turbulent, uncertain times of the bike shop. Let's see if there's any bullet points here. It's if anybody's in the cycling communities, you've already probably seen or been affected by the consumer behavior is changed a little bit for especially this year. It's been curving this direction anyway. But people are worried about, especially in the States, are kind of worried about their incomes and jobs, and all that kind of thing, and they're going to be a little more shy on it. Yeah, we're seeing some inflation. Eggs are not as much as they were, but they're still up. Things are kind of nickel and diming us in loosely way of all the other things they're costing, and some of the tariffs are causing that. It's like a bleed out. It's like dying by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. So it's not one thing you just put your thumb on, but everybody is really pulling back for the most part, being kind of, if I'm going to buy that one big bike, I'm going to really research the living hell out of it, and then try to find the best sale on top of it, and all those things. So when you got that behavior that's changed, where they're not comfortable, or they're questioning the being comfortable economically, financially, that changes and curves the behavior of the customer, which I have seen quite a bit, because now I'm getting a lot more service. And the bikes that I have sold, the full bikes are taking a lot longer to sell, and which is understandable. And we're going that direction. Now I shifted to selling more parts and more frames. So if somebody was more intrigued of custom building a frame with the componentry that they want, with the wheels and all the bits and the right sizing pieces, that's a very economical way of building your really cool ride. It takes a lot of extra time for somebody to do that and to figure it out, but those particular things, and that's where it's shifted. Am I making as much? Kinda on the parts blowout, and I have a video of that in my library too. It's like, I feel like a chop shop, but what you're doing, you're providing good quality parts for somebody to do either repairs on the current ride or building something up, because somebody may not want this frame, and that's like a Tequila Sunrise frame, right? This reminds me of the GT Tequila Sunrise. Anyway, the Cuestas back in the 90s. But anyway, it's like, I may not want that fork, or I may not want a 1x, I want a 2x, or I want to build it up myself. People really do get into that. And I've done several builds this year specifically like that. One customer's like, here's a frame. Well, it's a full bike. And it's like, I don't want this componentry. It's like, okay, what do you want? It's like, see what you can find me. Like, I'm looking for a 10-speed. So I found another bike. Basically, I bought 2 other bikes and took all the parts off of those to make the one bike with Ultegra 10-speed with Ultegra wheel set with combination. And then he went out and bought a whole bunch of Redshift stuff, like the seat posts and stem and bars. And he decked this Lightspeed titanium bike out, and it was a nice ride. Loves it. And I do have a video of that in my library too to show it off. But that's what kind of the trend is on the more avid cyclists. I mean, there's still people going to be looking for the complete bike entry level, but the price point on that for the used market, they're not looking at the $1,000 bike anymore. They're not even looking at the $800 bike. They're barely even looking at the $500 bike. So for me to buy a bike and try to get what I need to get out of it for my labor and time, you got to get that bike so low. I mean, extremely stupid low. But the thing is, the prices are coming down on the used market so low, it's almost insane. Locally here, I'm in touch with a guy. He's selling I think it was a Specialized Roubaix, the aluminum one with a carbon back, with Ultegra 10-speed system on it for $150. Full bike. So, I mean, that can either go both directions. Could I fix it up and sell it for $400? Maybe. But I can tell you right off the bat, I can sell the frame for about $200, sell the wheels for $100, and componentry in a group in itself, maybe another $200. So I'm going to make more profitability off of the parted out bike than on the complete bike. So then, in this case in point, I don't have to wait for the full bike to sell to recoup my costs. If I just sell the frame, I recovered my costs, and the parts can just sit there and they'll go when they go, and then make off a profit off of that. So that's the is the the way it's kind of going. And I actually have done this before. This is not my first rodeo of Chop Shop. Thanks for Pablo. Yeah, Chop Shop is a good term. Yeah, because I did it back and when eBay was first baby back in 2003, 2004. That's when I was doing that for a while. Then I just got too busy working at Big Five, so I stopped doing that, which I should not have. I should have just kept on building that up. But in any case, nor here nor there, a story to tell at another time. But that's what the conditions of my environment has changed to. So when you're looking at a bike shop that's selling brand new stuff, I'm sure you're starting to see a lot of tapering of, I don't want that $100 bicycle chain. I'll deal with the $50 or $25 bicycle chain until I'm a little more comfortable. So the replacement parts even are probably going to go down for resale. So the high-end niche stuff, and it's like blows me away. Like these companies are still trying to release a brand new product, Specialized, Diverge, and what was the other one? A GC Performer just made a video about. I didn't watch the video. I just saw the headline. I'm like, are they still trying to release new shit right now? I mean, seriously? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like, come on. Sit on that because, or they have to because they've had it built up. Like, we need to get this stuff out the door because it's not making us any money sitting in the warehouse or on the port. And I bet those releases are not specifically just to the United States. They're going to be more the European market and more of South America or Australia, New Zealand markets, those kinds of, or the other Asian markets where they can probably get people jazzed up and buy, hopefully, they're banking on. But then again, you're talking new high-end stuff is still going to be absurdly priced. In any case, thanks for chiming in. Appreciate it. Hermana Pablo. Sorry, I didn't butcher there. Randy Smalls, what are your thoughts about the old Peugeot frame? I haven't had a lot of experiences with Peugeot, but I know that they were a good brand and a more solid brand back in the day. Worked on a lot of them and doing the service portion of it. Really decent, good steel frames out there for recreational riding. I don't think it would be, if you're looking to buy a used one, I don't think you should shy away from it. It used to be one of the headliners back in the day, so that's a good thing. Michigan Biker just got here. Oh, what did you miss? Well, I'm just talking about the doom and gloom, not too much. We're talking, the struggling shops and the turbulent uncertainties that we're going to be faced with. But then again, don't forget, today is Bicycle World Day. So get out on your bike or work on a bike or do something that's related to the bicycle. It would be great. Yeah, it's one of those things to celebrate all things cycling. And, we all need to be, it's just good for us in general and to get out and get some outdoor activities and that kind of thing. So. What do I think about the Shimano mountain bike that will be I'm not thinking about it at all right now. What I'm thinking about is working on this bike and various other ones. I really haven't looked into it, to tell you the truth. I've been kind of backlogged on just trying to get back in the swing of things. We rolled in late on Sunday, and all day yesterday I was just fulfilling orders that accumulated over the week. And I just now got some tune-ups that have rolled in from appointment. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm right now. Hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be doing some searching for some newer bikes or used bikes. That kind of perspective, it's kind of hopefully move some more units. I have some appointments listed up for that, which is great. So I'm getting activity, although we've had I wouldn't say yet a cooler than average spring, but it's been fairly cool for here locally. So the local sales and the local service have been kind of dampered. Sorry. Therefore, I'm not high volume anyway, which is good because I've been having enough to keep me busy, which is great. And I'm not worried about that at all. But when I walk into a lot of shops locally here, it's crickets. So when you're looking at a volume of 4 or 5 service techs basically sitting there not doing anything, because there's no service coming in the door because the weather has been kind of cooler and people have been kind of holding off and getting repairs done. That's really hurting their bottom line. So corporate stores to non-corporate stores, it's not no bueno, not good at all. So for me though, I have a crop of really great customers, and I've got a continuous cycle of stuff they're just constantly bringing me stuff in to work on. So therefore I'm doing okay, and bringing in some newer customers too, which is awesome. So any case, and a lot of YouTubers out there that've been watching YouTube come across my videos and are like, hey, I want you to work on my bike, which is great. So I would say last summer, and I have said this before, the YouTube influence actually drove 50% of my service to me because of people seeing me here on YouTube or Facebook as well. So any case, that's what we're looking at, how social media can influence. A lot of shops don't have a lot of time to put into a YouTube channel. Understandably, it is a lot of work, but it has helped me leverage either selling products or selling used stuff, as well as the service aspect of it. So it's worked in my favor. Have I been paid back for the time I put into it? Not even close. But I'm okay with that because I look at it as a long-term investment. And in other words, over a period of time, those older videos will still be evergreen, as they call them. We'll still be producing something, and also the newer content will be more inflated. And also you develop brand deals, which is, you're watching a bike mechanic trying to figure out YouTube. I mean, in real time. This is like, it is a constant train wreck. I mean, it's like some things do work great, and some things are like, why am I putting so much time into this and it doesn't do anything? But it's just a trial and error, throw things on the wall. And it's right now falls in the same tone of all bike shops are just, oh, we're not getting the customers are not coming in for this. We got to figure out what they're going to come in for. Are they going to do for a chain waxing service, or are they going to do a detailing, or work on fits, or anything? I mean, it's constant changing. It's not a core income based or reliable anymore. Let's put it that way. Reliable income for bike shops has been disrupted to the point that it's uncertain, and we're all struggling. Playing on all those words. Some of us are doing better than others. I'm doing okay, but I'm hopefully optimistic, but yet still kind of scared at the same time. But this guy, so that's what we're looking at, and the state of affairs under a lot of different pressures and so forth. And there's been a lot of videos on that. But talking about positive things, this week is World Bicycle Day. It's one day. It should be like, well, it was Bike Month. Then okay, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it all. It's like July. Just put some sparklers on your bike and call it good, and have some good time. For 2 centuries we've been impacted by mobile culture, celebrating the simplicity, affordability, and environmental friendliness of cycling. So that's some good ones there. On that, what's on my docket is, you're seeing this Tequila Sunrise Marlin 7 with a Judy. It's a couple years old, not too long. Story on this guy: got put behind a camper trailer thing, exposed to elements, got really rusty. He tried to fix the chain on it, get all whacked out, rusted up. Maybe that was a new chain he tried to install, but didn't get it right, which is fine. That's what we're here for. So we got a new chain for him. He's going to go with the Connex chain. It's pre-waxed. So we're going to do an upgrade on that. and basically do a drivetrain clean and getting that kind of surface rust and gunk off of there. And he took the handlebars off, and need to readjust or make sure all this front end is adjusted correctly. Basically, I might just end up doing a headset overhaul. I don't do suspension work, but I'll clean it all up, make sure it's working good. And then do all the truing of the wheels, adjusting the hubs, reassembling the drivetrain. He picked the package, the new cables and housing. So the only cables and housing that's going to be replaced is the derailleur, to make it a little shift a little bit smoother for him. So basically it's going to be, I wouldn't say a higher, well, it is going to be a higher grade cable and housing than what came on stock on this. Therefore, it's going to shift a little bit smoother with the stainless steel cable and all that. And with the newer chain, clean the drivetrain and that kind of thing, it's going to shift a lot better. I'm going to take the brakes, take the pads out, clean them all out, resurface them, true the rotors, make sure the brake system, they feel pretty good. We're not needing to bleed, but we'll come across that if we need to. But once it's all stripped down, what I'm going to also do to this guy is he did the packages detailing. So I'm going to clean the frame, polish it, do some corrective surfacing, get all the scuffs off as much as I can, and then put a really nice stacked ceramic coating on the frame. And as well as on the parts, when I clean all those, I put also a wax ceramic blend. What I've been using is Magura's ceramic wax. It's okay. What I really liked, what I used before on parts and so forth, was the Mother's ceramic blend. So once I use up that bottle, I'll probably go to, it probably does, basically what I'm trying to do is do a lot of surface protection from the parts all the way to the frame and all the other bits, where when water and gunk, this is probably going to go back on the back of the trailer and get exposed. So hopefully that'll help prevent rust and shedding off. Also, the ceramic coating will also help the frame paint from fading. It has a UV protection on there too. So we're going to give this thing a complete dolled up experience and get it running like new, even though it's only a couple years old. The poor guy hasn't really gotten to ride it off-road that much. He's moved here, or temporarily I guess, to do some riding, and I'm trying to get him outfitted. So this is my first project of the week. So we're going to be jumping on that. My neighbor's Cannondale bike, road bike, and we're doing some parts and fixing up too. I do have a few more appointments coming in this week and also beginning of next. So the service portion of my business is going up. I think being consistent, which is great, and some of the part sales, which is, you can't rely on just one or the other. And that goes to all shops and bigger shops. You got to leverage other pieces or other aspects. If I sell a couple chains, that helps out. If I sell a couple used parts or maybe a frame, that also helps out. So other than a day, yes, I'm going in like 8 different directions, including making videos and doing this, which is another half of the time. So across the board, hopefully all that together actually gets a big enough pot of money so I can pay off my credit cards. And on to the next month, all right? So in any case, that's where we're at. And yeah, I bet a lot of shops right now, considering the changes that we've been faced with the last couple of years, we're probably all on month to month right now, trying to just working on this month, trying to get through it. Long term, I think a lot of us have blown through savings, put in a lot of orders that are actually on loans basically, or pre-booked from companies where you take dating on paying back invoices, which is pretty much the norm, but a lot of those shops will have money in the bank to sit on to do those special buys. The idea of owning a bike shop is owning all your own inventory. So once you get to that stage, you're doing okay. But I'm sure even those shops that still own the inventory, that inventory still needs to move. It needs to move within 3 to 4 cycles of the year. So when I'm talking about bikes, when you're looking at consumables like chains and tires and so forth, that needs to be a higher cycle to push through. But in any case, that's what we're looking at. I'm hopefully optimistic because, well, the channel's doing good. Bike repairs are coming in, and I still have customers. So it's not completely crickets for me. So that's good. And a lot of smaller shops are leveraged, a lot of used, and a lot of service of keeping themselves busy, keeping the lights on, and hopefully things will take a little more predictable, stable environment for us to work in here in the States. Yeah, I'm sure in other countries you've probably felt some of the disruption from us, and I do apologize for that. It's not my fault directly, but I am part of what we're at, and I do see it happening and affecting, and it's like it's just I don't know. In any case, I don't want to put it into politics. It's not a politic channel, but then again, when we're looking at our environments being affected by those things, you got to talk about it a little bit. In any case. On to the next. Let's see here. Oh, tomorrow's World Running Day. All right, let's back it up. So what's Thursday? World Take a Nap on the Couch Day. There we go. Or is it Walk the Dog Day? I forget. In any case, just joking. Thank you, Tony, for chiming in. Yeah, what day is it going to be? Chew Your Wheel Day. All right. Well, Levi, thank you for chiming in and communicating or chatting. The cycle works. Nice. High-end shops, just higher housing. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, every bike shops has their own markets, and, Parker Bikes was the small town, used to be small town back then. Now it's an extension of suburbs, and there's a huge amount of higher income homes out there, big time. So I think the last shop that's still standing in Parker, Colorado, I think it's a Mites Bikes. I think it's owned by Pond Holdings, which is selling Cannondales and Cervelos to all those people out down in Parker. They used to be kind of a niche, high-end, old school high-end road bike shop that did like fittings and classic road and that kind of thing. I think they finally, unfortunately, couldn't do it anymore. And they used to be Treads, which was another brand or another shop that closed. They had like 3 locations and so forth. Used to be a Trek dealer. They lost their Trek dealer, shipped to Elevation Cycles, which is the one that owns Mike's Bikes, that bought Mike's Bikes, bought Elevation. So it's like soap opera. I mean, it is all soap opera, all these shell games in the last 10 years. And at the end of the day, well, there's a few of us still standing trying to give it a hard whirl to it and push forward and still provide to our cycling communities that we've been a part of and worked with all these years. And because we like bikes, working on bikes, riding bikes, and whatever perspective you're at, either you're just a cycling enthusiast, that casual rider, even to racers, that's great, it's awesome. And then you have bike shop peeps that some are with high-end shops, some are with family community shops, some are just basically commuter style shops or just recreational shops, which is great. One locally here, I'll give it a shout out, is and let's see here, Precision E-Bike, Josh down there. He specifically just does e-bikes and e-bike motor conversions and so forth. His footprint for customer base is multiple states. People will send him bikes to have converted. Also, he helps the local community for commuters too. So you got all sorts of fun stuff going on, and the cycling world. If you haven't been around in the last decade or two, or you're just getting back into it, it's changed so much that it's every part of cycling has its own niche culture in itself, subset. So like one shop will be specifically only mountain. One shop will be specifically only e-bikes, and one shop will be only specifically road or used bikes or just service. So it's gotten big enough that they can support those shops in the smaller niches. Back in the 90s, we were like doing everything. But then again, it wasn't so complicated, or it didn't have so many different variations. And the population density here is almost tripled. So quite a few more people here, which support those particular split off niches. So to see the dynamics have changed in the last 30 years is pretty impressive. And to be able to do what I do here, just doing some service work and doing some videos and selling some parts and still make a income, That's awesome. I mean, honestly, it's great because I don't want to open up another brick and mortar store at this point. I like everything appointment based that fits my lifestyle, which makes me a happier person, which makes me a happier mechanic, which everybody gets a better experience when they work with somebody that's happy. Right? So it's a win-win-win. And I take my time to, and this is going to take me a couple days to do. When I did high volume repairs for shops, this would be a 3-hour job, and then I'd be on to the next 3 or 4 bikes of the day, which, you can do that and I get paid per bike and whatever, but you don't get that attention to detail, and your stress level goes way down. Like, I'll get to it, and I'll work on it for a while, and some things will go a little faster, and some things will take a little bit longer to do. But at the end of the day, I'm less stressed, and that does a lot better tune-up than the high volume. I get the high volume, I understand, you got dollars and cents, you got to pay those employees, and you got bills to pay monthly, you got to have a certain amount. I was a service manager. I knew all the dollars and cents of all that, as well as inventory. So yeah, but when you bring the cost of running your business down to this so low and you only need to make so much, it makes it a lot better for everybody. But it's not for everybody, and it doesn't work for everybody. That's for sure. At the end of the day, you still need to pay your bills, but you got to still provide, a certain amount of volume. Case in point, the Swanee Cycles that I interviewed last week. Great shop. Love the concept. And even then, when I was talking to Joseph, he was talking, like, I thought I was, bringing in mountain bikes. And then, it's like, he's only been open a few years, and he had to change his niche a little bit, do a little swimming to figure out what's the market for where I'm at, because it's brick and mortar primarily. He doesn't do a lot of online presence or shipping or selling online like some shops do. Is really, relying on the community that he's in, and that's kind of dictating his business as in what's going to be available to sell, and what brands and what style of bikes and so forth, where a lot of shops get into that. So, any case, they're really service heavy, to the point that if you look at the shop, which is a small shop, more than half of the shop is the service department. And the showroom floor is actually no bigger than my garage. It's a 2-car garage with a bump out. So the showroom floor is no bigger than my garage, and the service department is double that. And great tool wall. They had 2 service areas with a park lift, and they have a wheel building area. A little waxing station, kind of like how I have set here, is like you got little segmented areas for whatever you need. Little stations. Mine's a shipping station and a fitting station, and they also had a fitting. The fitting area was in a different location in the same building, but they have offices above, so they're able to rent off office space to do bike storage and also fitting. And they also sublet, very smart, they sublet a corner of it to a suspension service guy. And this guy just does suspension services, kind of like what they're doing down in Longmont, which is Dirt Labs. They just do suspension. He's doing that in the Vegas market. So if you need your suspension to work, talk to Swanee Cycles, and they'll get you hooked up with the suspension guy. I met the guy, I forgot his name, I'm sorry, I'm just not great with names. I could tell you what bike he rode, but not his name. But anyway, he was a nice guy. He was talking about suspensions and so forth, and the trickiness of all of it. But that's how they're diversifying. So they basically subletted that little corner for him to have a little shop, and it's all basically appointment based and mail order, kind of like what I'm doing, but just not in his own garage, that kind of thing. One of the partner, Zebby, he had a garage shop just like mine, and essentially he partnered up with Joseph, and they opened up their location. So they had a great story, and they work on a lot of bikes, and they're really good, and they really take pride in their craft. So that's where those particular shops will stand out more so than others, because when you walk in there, you're going to see the same crew. It's not going to rotate, and you're seeing the owners working it. So that's where those are great. It's awesome. And not to say that the bigger shops are not great either, but it's just like it's a nice niche. And what the funny thing was, I'm out for a ride 3 days later, and I caught up to this guy. It took a little bit of extra effort on my hat. I think the stoplight helped me because I was able to catch him. He was on a Canyon, which I forget the model, but had carbon wheels, really fancy, nice guy. And I was talking about shops, and I talked about the interview. And it's like, oh yeah, I was at their anniversary party and so forth, and talked it up. It's like, yeah, they're a great little shop and so forth. So even on it's not even remotely close to where the shop was, but on a group ride, or not a group ride, but I ran into just random cyclists out there, and like, oh, they know them. So, and that's the community feel that a lot of us are hoping in small shops to provide, to build, and be a part of. That's where that kind of thing. So that segues into what I'm going to be doing on Saturday. Woo! What am I doing on Saturday? Saturday here in Colorado, they have, it's not a big event. It's actually a very niche, small event, but it's part of Bike MS. And Bike MS is, if you don't know, I'm sure you have one in the United States. I'm sure there's one in your state. It's basically raise money for multiple sclerosis. And my family has been a part of this particular organization for over 35 years now. And my dad used to be the bike shop coordinator back in the day and get all the bike shops together to do the event. And here in Colorado, it's a 2-day event, and you ride out to one place, do overnight, and you ride back, or whatever the route was. That's what they did. And he was a part of this for several decades. And after his passing in 2005, I kind of picked up. Now, I'm not part of the organizations in the sense of what he was, organizing the bike shops and so forth. I just don't really have the time to do that. But I have been out there every year for the most part, supporting the ride at a couple, either one or both days, doing support for the particular ride. Well, it's escalated to the point where I was talking to the director, and she's really nice person, and fairly new to the position, trying to revamp the Colorado's chapter of the Bike MS. And back in the day, they used to have this, what they call the high rollers ride. It's basically the people that raise the bigger dollar amounts, and they get the fancy training ride. It's catered and kind of just showboating to those people did something to work up to, that kind of thing, which is great. And therefore, I asked her, like, still do the high rollers ride? Because we used to cater it at our shop at Parker, and it was fun for the mechanics because we get free breakfast. It was nice breakfast, like quiche, and it was fun. It's like, hey, feed a mechanic, they'll be your friend forever. You give them a beer afterwards, and they'll be your love buddy. No, just kidding. So I asked them about this, and they're like, yeah, we still have it. And I'm like, cool. I was like, where are you having it out of? It's like, it's at a Harley Davidson place in Golden. I'm like, what? Like, this is a bike event, and it's specifically for cycling. It may be, maybe they're one of the sponsors. They're, bringing up money for a motorcycle that sells Harley Davidsons. And it's in their parking lot where it starts. And I'm like, why is this not starting at a bike shop? That's the one thing I just like, what? And secondly, it's like, well, who's helping to support the ride? Do you have any shops or bike shops going to help out? I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, you're killing me here. It's like, you don't have anybody out there to help the high rollers. Not that they need very much help. There's usually higher end bikes and more avid cyclists and so forth. They're pretty much self-contained, but at least somebody should be out there to pump up the tire or check a derailleur or lube a chain or something, right? So I roped myself in of doing, which I have to drive about an hour and a half and be there at 6 in the morning to set up for their start time by 7:30. So it's going to be a short, I think I'm going to be driving longer than I'm actually going to be at the event. But in any case, it's for a good cause. It'd be nice to, and for me, it's not local, right? So there's a case in point where I've talked about before that you can help out with the community, and your community doesn't have to be in the 3-mile block radius of your shop. It could be anywhere within the market, because those individuals that do that particular high rollers ride, maybe some of them live up here, or maybe some of them would be more than happy to have me work on the bike and drive up here and have that done, or whatever. Or it's just, or bottom line, it's just the right thing to do. So that being said, doing this particular high rollers ride, gonna go out, ask for a head count, haven't gotten received yet, and I was also around that. Probably what's gonna happen is I'll set up, and it ends at a different location. So I'll set up, have my tent, have some tools, a pump, do some work on a few bikes, just be out there, being a cheerleader, rob on. And once they get going, and then I'll just tear down and I'll just kind of follow the route with my car. So if anybody breaks down, I'll have tools readily available to work on something if need be. And, by 10 o'clock, it should be done. And just to give you, a concept, if you're in a shop and you haven't done any of these kind of events, it seems like a big lift, but once you do one or two of them, it's really not that big of a deal. Especially if you set tools and old benches and all that, stands aside and just basically put it in your vehicle. You don't have to tear down your whole shop to do it. It makes it pretty easy. And that's where I've gotten to that level. So that makes it a little bit easier. But, time is going to be done at about 10, hang out. They're going to end at a brewery or something, probably have brunch, call it good. And then I still have the other half of my day to do work or whatever. For me, since it isn't in that area, I'm going to be looking at Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and see if there's any bikes down there I want to take a look at while I'm down there. And I've actually found a couple. And hopefully I can coordinate, pick up a bike or two for refurbishing or whatever, and bring them back up and do the ride. And at the end of the day, meet some cool people, promote my brand a little bit, and just, have fun. And part of that goes to the big event, which is at the end of the month, the last week of the month of June here in Colorado. So they have the Bike MS. It's the 2-day event. And that's what I'm going to be doing for that weekend. And hey, that's kind of a precursor. So the thing is if you do a bigger event like Bike MS, you can do a lot of the pregame, is a good way of putting it. Pregame leading up to it. That's where you acquire that return on investment of time, because you can get training rides out of your shop. You can get packet pickup. You can get promoted through the Bike MS, and they're doing all their stuff. And if you get a little more involved, you can get more promotion related. So yeah, you actually make basically your promotional sales and so forth could be actually built up enough. By the time of the event, you've already made enough profit off of it. Therefore, it justifies to send that one or two mechanic for a couple of days to do the event. Or better yet, the owner of the shop doing it, because you're the best representation of your business. And if you're out there showing your shop as well as the community that you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and do these things, that's great. I mean, that's just, obviously it's just a win-win. So in any case, all right, back to the chat. Ozark Trail Cycling. Hey, yeah, thanks for chiming in. I saw you chime in on a couple other videos of mine. Yeah, thank you for joining us here on Shop Talk Tuesday. I was talking about the Ozark brand a little bit earlier, which I believe is either made by or owned by Kent International, which makes the Kent bikes, of course, but they also own Univega. Vin Diesel is the other brand that they has a house brand too, that they had. And interesting that you're just primarily making videos on Ozark brands from Walmart. I didn't know, I don't see any paperwork or anything, but when I saw the interview of the owner of Kent talking about the tariffs and so forth and economicals, I think it was a CBS one, I don't know, it was an interview, and then I saw the Ozark brand right behind him, like, well, that's where those are coming from. I mean, that's who Walmart's having them build them for or whatever. So in any case, just wanted to chime out on that. So if you have any insights, definitely put it in the comment or chat below. Also, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you like. I got to put in that plug in there, just, your typical YouTuber or whatever. Let's see here, Michael chiming in. What do you got? There's still time. There's still some good deals to be had. Yes, that is correct. Oh, you got a INT3 gravel bike from Jensen's? Nice. Good job. Nice. Whew. Yeah, 3 grand. That's yeah, better be nice for. Hopefully, I don't know the original, but I mean, hey, if you're at that level, you're at that level. That's great. Which we're having a bicycle X challenge, which has been around for 50 years. Wow, that's cool. Take care of loyal customers. Trek store with an awesome repair department, Wichita. Is that a Trek owned store, or is that so, because back before Trek was buying shops, they'd have Trek concept stores and still be like I think one in Kansas was just like the Trek store of Kansas or something like that. I think it was in Kansas City. Maybe I'm confused with another chain. They had like 4 or 5 of them, and I think they ended up selling to Trek. But in any case, but yeah, thanks for chiming in. Yeah, you're a neighbor. Well, neighbor to Colorado anyway. It's right, Wichita, which might be another Wichita somewhere out in the beyond the United States, which could be very solid and true in that perspective of it for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, Bike World Day. Working on a charity ride this weekend, which I'm excited to do. I'm kind of fun, even though I have to prep everything the Friday before and drive down very early on Saturday. Super happy to do something like that. I did several events, extra events last year. I'm gonna have to scale back, I think, a little bit, not a lot, but a little, just to be more. I think I did one too many or two too many. It's just kind of just made it a little disruptive of what I was trying to accomplish. And that's another thing too, is like, you don't have to do every event. I mean, I know there's some shops, and I've worked in a shop that did every event. And I don't know if they ever saw the investment return on any of it because they put so much discounting into it, which is another thing that you got to be mindful of and might bleed out. They were in a very aggressive market. And I think part of it, I can talk about it now because I don't work there. They made their own aggressive market. It was kind of like they did it to themselves, being aggressive. I'm not going to say any names of the shops, but there were 2 main shops in this college town, and they duked it out. I mean, both owners hated each other. For whatever reason, I never got the total gist on that, but they hated each other. And this was a problem in the 90s and the 2000s and even up to then in the teens, that basically shop owners' egos sometimes got in their way. I'm not saying all of them, but sometimes they were just, I don't know. And I mean, perfectly nice guys aside of that, right? But, and they're, you'd think there'd be more of a community feel to it, but there's aggressiveness between, and that's within any industry. I mean, apparently, pissed each other off too much doing something or whatever, or the rumors between each other got muddled and they became very aggressive. Aggressive to the point where they were racing to the bottom. You ever heard that term, racing to the bottom? Well, this is what the hell they did. I mean, it's like they always one up each other. And okay, let's put it this way in the service department portion of it. They're like, oh, we will give you 2 years of free tune-ups when you buy a bike from us. Well, the other shop would go, we'll give you 3 years of free tune-ups if you buy a bike from us. And it's just like, as mechanics are going, fuck are you doing to yourselves? Because you're taking the time, and what are you? It's not a tune-up, not even close. It's basically a wash, lube, and air up the tires. That's what it came down to. Because you cannot do so many free tune-ups in a service department, which takes you away from actually making money, because the sales didn't offset the actual profit of the overall paying for all those mechanics to do those tune-ups. Not like a real tune-up. So the tune-ups became really fake, really quick, and then they kept on going, right? They undercut their jobs, and they also went aggressively against all the events and all the teams. So then teams, they loved this because they were having two shops in their market aggressively seeding them out instead of the other way around going, oh, I got a team, can you help us out, to a bike shop. They're like, well, I got two teams or two bike shops jockeying to have me, sponsor their stuff, their shop being their shop, whatever. And they were like, well, what kind of discount are you going to give me? Well, we'll give you 10% off. And the other shop's like, oh, no, we'll give you 15% off. It came down to almost like, well, we'll give you team leaders cost plus 10, which is employee purchasing. And then the rest of your team club levels will break it down. Like some will get half off and this, that, and other. And it's like, guess what? If you're an avid cyclist or just a general cyclist and you ride a little bit and you're like, okay, I pay $20 to be part of this club and I'm going to get all these discounts from this local shop. So these customers are basically no longer, they're still customers, but they're basically taking advantage of the discount through the clubs to the point where these two shops are going at it so bad, they raced to the bottom. It got to the point where one shop basically called it and goes, we'll give you free lifetime, free tune-ups for a lifetime on that bike you purchased. Let that sink in for a second. Look, all you bike mechanics that are actually watching this right now are probably just cringed, like, what the hell are you doing? Because that's a pain point to any service manager. That's crippling to a service department. So crippling that Bicycle Village used to do that here, and they're still around, kinda, owned by Velo Sports now, and I think they do. Anyway, they do lifetime tune-ups on the bikes that are sold, but you look at the fine print, it is only in like December, January, and February. So it's never in season. So that case. And they went like, oh, it could be even as long as it has a sticker on it, well, it doesn't matter, it's the original owner. It's like, wow. Okay, that's going over and beyond of craziness. If you have any stories in your market of that kind of crazy marketing, let me know. Put it in the chat or put it in the description below, or in the comments below. That'd be awesome. In any case, it's just nuts. It's nuts. So essentially, eventually, these two shops in this college town, the one shop, and it's not in Colorado, by the way, so nobody looking trying to figure out who it is. It's a different state that starts with an M. Just to throw you off. In any case, the one shop went down, closed, 3 locations or 2 or 3 locations out. Like, can't do it anymore. Can't pay their brands back, and it went down. They had a really cool name too, and apparently the guy was pretty nice, and I've met some former employees from that shop, and they seemed like it was cool, but it just went out of hand, and basically whoever had the deepest pockets won. And this is where when I rolled into the scene and after the aftermath of that. So I'm dealing as a service, as one of the lead people working for him is brought on. And I'm like, we have to do free tune-ups for life on anything in this state where they're hard on bikes and the environment's hard on bikes. It was insane. It was just wow. And then they were scooping up all the teams to the point where majority of your cycling community was a part of some team or not, or club. And basically your margins on all your parts and accessories were cut almost in half. I'm like, how are you even still in business? Wow. So when I kind of gave them an inventory analyst, because I was part of the inventory part of that, and looking at everything, it's like, you need to reevaluate all your team structures from here on out and not give so much discounts because you're just killing yourself. In addition to these free tune-ups, they got a sunset. You got a sunset that it's just, you have to roll that back. I know you're going to make some people mad about it, but you got to roll that back because you're killing your service department. You have 5 mechanics, and if half of them are working on free tune-ups half the day, basically the other half is not generating enough money to run your service department. So basically your service department has become a deficit instead of a positive piece. or bringing income to your bottom line. And on top of that, your sales are eroded, the margins are eroded by all the discounts that be given to all the teams and clubs. Just to say you won. What did you win? Wow. Yeah, they're still there today. They opened up some more shops and their son took over. So I think they're doing okay. Good for them. But, it was, when you see environments like that, you're like, come on, people, we got to be better. We got to do better. I mean, please. I mean, we had a very aggressive competition back in the Parker Bikes days in the 90s. Scott from Destination Cyclery was out for us. I mean, he just aggressively was out for us. And that was his personality. It's not that we were making this up or anything. And we went out of business. We did, but it wasn't because of him. But he also toted like, oh, it was me. It's like, no, it was my dad that came down with cancer and then fucked everything up. So it's like, this guy was such a jerk. His ego was so big. But he ran it in the ground. I mean, as well afterwards. So it's kind of like karma picked up on him. But anyway, I don't want to be talking about shots. But it's just like environments like that. They've weeded themselves out, I think, because I'm not seeing that in today's environment, not as much anyway. That probably is in some markets for sure, some aggressiveness going between it. But at this point, we're all just trying to survive. We got beat down so hard, and the cycling industry is so tough that smaller bike shops, we basically have to leverage. And then I think the beautiful part of it is we can now split off and do our own thing and seriously, if I had a garage guy open up across the street and all he did was mountain bikes or e-bikes, not a problem. Not a problem. I still have my own flow of, and if anything, it'll help us out because if he has road people, he'll send it over here. He has the same customer. I have the same customer as a mountain bike. I just don't do that stuff. You can go there, or an e-bike. You can just go over there and be convenient for the customer. If anything, so that being said, I just think I think the market is split up to smaller shops because they've been downscaling ever since the teens because the footprints just can't afford that retail space. And even if they own the building, they cut them up to sublet to offset the costs of business. Even the Lee's guy, his name wasn't Lee, by the way, he's the owner of Lee's. He owned the buildings and he's been chopping them up. He had bigger stores and he shrunk them down because the business didn't support the real estate. So even though you have a fixed cost on, if you own the building, it's a fixed cost on the bank loan or whatever it is. But that being said, even in that scenario, the shops have been shrinking as in sizes and so forth. And you got to do a lot more with less. Case in point, I don't have a garage. I'm still using it as a garage, but I basically made a shop out of it and it works fine. Would I love to expand and have a lot more space? Sure. But when we look at it, so if it's just me, that's a lot more for me to clean, so there's a flip side to all of this. But, it's just one of those things where I think we're in more of an environment, and hopefully I'm more right and wrong on this because hopefully we're in a market environment where I can walk into the shops and they're not going to be like, oh yeah, you're the guy. Yeah, we've sent some business your way and that kind of thing versus, being hostile. I think those days need to be over with. And living through some of it, it just sucked. And it doesn't need to be that way because you're not helping anybody out. And on the flip side of it, as a customer, when you look at that kind of aggressiveness, it's a turnoff. It's kind of like going on a bad date. It's like going on a date with somebody that's always talking about their ex. Come on, you don't want that when you walk into any shop, and it's like, oh, you don't want to go there. Their service sucks or whatever, and they're whatever kind of bad mouth, and it's like it's not it's like what Grandma said. It's like can't say anything nice, don't say it at all, right? But in any case, you want to things do happen. Mechanics make mistakes. Shops, sometimes get bad raps. Sometimes it's because of they're not doing something right, and sometimes it's just something went wrong. And we're all susceptible to that because these things getting more complicated all the time. And even the older stuff had some complicity to it where if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you could screw it up. But in any case, at the end of the day, we're all honestly trying, hopefully, we're all honestly trying to do our best, and that's all you can really ask, and constantly learn from our mistakes and moving forward from there. And also leveraging those individuals that have been in the industry a little bit longer, that have maybe more experience, or they're more been exposed to specific parts of the cycling industry more than yourself. Case in point, I'm not going to work and dive in and break apart an e-motor. No, I'm going to go talk to Josh at Precision E-Bike and say, hey, what do I do here? Or can you fix it? Because that's not my thing. I'm going to do all these other things, but that part of it is all you. Same thing with suspension work. If this shock needed to be worked on, Dirt Labs is getting a new fork to be worked on, because I don't have the tooling of it and the parts and the refreshing of the education of that specific part. And that's where the bikes have gotten so overly complicated at times in certain areas where it's really hard to keep up on it. Then you got the new next iteration and so forth. And the brand specific tooling is driving me completely insane. When you have to have 10 different bottom bracket tools to accommodate the last 5 years of bikes is stupid, downright stupid. Back in the day, we had 2 tools, and that took care of about 98% of the bikes that we were working on. And then they got worn out due to that, because you're using them all the time. A couple of those tools I have on a bench I just bought because I felt like I need to have them on hand just in case I come across that one bottom bracket. But I think 3 out of the 6 of them that I bought, only 2 of them been used in the last 6 months. So I'm waiting for those other 3 or 4 to come in. That's just the tip of the iceberg of how componentry is being so specific to, like, bottom brackets is one, headsets is another, brake bleed kits is another whole thing. Then you talk about drivetrains, and you get in the drivetrains like, oh no, you got to have a flat top chain only to work on this particular, because the spacing's different on it. It's like, oh, you're branding specific chains for your drivetrain only, therefore Connex or Shimano, you can't cross swap to different chains. So if you break that chain and that shop does not have that chain in stock, you're screwed. You have to wait to have something ordered in, or hopefully it's not a back order, and hopefully it's available coming up in the near future, because that specific high-end chain that goes to that specific one-by high-end drivetrain may not be available for you. So, some consumables like that as a consumer, and if it's very brand specific, has to be only compatible with onlys, I'd maybe buy an extra chain or 2 or whatever, brake pads or whatever, just to have those on hand, just in case, when you do run out, then you can replace those. Anyway, that's my soapbox on newer for the last 10 years new, because apparently they openly admitted about 10 years ago that they're going to make overcomplicated things like the auto industry to make consumers not able to work on their bikes. Therefore, they have to have specialized tools from shops and basically pressure point those shops to carry all those tools as well. Yeah, amen, that's painful. So, but they still, like on this one here, it's a newer bike. It has a standard bottom bracket tool, which has been the same bottom bracket tool has been used for the last 20 years on this guy. So that's not going to be too, if I need to take it apart, I don't think I will need to, but if I needed to, I can. The crankset is a standard pull threaded crankset. So the crankset on this one, even though it's a newer bike, so they can do it. It's just the upper end, high end stuff is where they really are sabotaging themselves and everybody else in the process. This is a quick release on a through axle, nothing wrong with through axle, but it has loose bearings with cones, nothing really weird there. The derailleur system on this is the Dior, which has a clutch on it, I believe. It's a 1x. It should be pretty straightforward to work on. So this particular bike, even though it is newer, the headset's, it is a press fit bearing, or not, it is an integrated bearing headset, but it's nothing really too unique. So when we had a conversation with Bradley, talking about how everything's been integrated within the front head forks, also when I was talking to Joseph as well, we did feature it. pain point as mechanics, especially on those high-end road aero bikes where they tucked all the cables through the headset and all that. If you want to switch this stem out on this bike, you can. It takes a hot 5 minutes, maybe 10 at the most, to switch out a different length or size and so forth. The other ones was a specific headset design stem or bar combination sometimes built in, so you have to get the right one specifically from that brand. And then you got to spend the next 3 hours tearing the whole damn thing apart because the hydraulic line goes through the headset bearings, through the frame, internally through the stem itself, and then instead of switching on the stem, you're redoing the shifting. Well, hopefully it's electronic shifting, you don't have to deal with that, but if it's cables, you've got that to deal with it. Then you have to do hydraulic line. I believe both, yeah. So all of a sudden you got a brake bleeding and for a stem adjustment, and you better hope that is the right size. Which alludes to fittings. Yeah, so if you're going to do a high-end bike or you want to do a custom-built frame that's going to be shipped from another country, like we featured Fairlight bikes and frames. Those are pretty sweet. Tumbleweed, I did have videos on those as well. Those are particular bike brands. And also Revel, it basically is being refreshed. They went out, the current owners that bought them from original owners went down. They bought back the original owner, bought back the brand. It's in bicycle retailer, so read up on it. There's another update on it where they brought back one of the designers that originally designed the first ones. Well, they changed their concept of the business a little bit. Basically, they're having the bikes built in Taiwan. They love saying it's their own factory, but it's part-ish. But they didn't go to Taiwan and bought the building and all that. No, it's a company that white labels different stuff. So, but yeah, it's their brand, their geometries and all that, and they have somebody over there oversees all that kind of stuff. It's nothing obscure. But the thing is on this, where they're changing it from having all these products built in Taiwan and shipped into a warehouse in Carbondale, Colorado, and then shipped out to the customers, it's basically going to be shipping straight from Taiwan to the customer. So they're cutting out the whole warehouse assembly portion of this bit. They're going to have somebody there in Taiwan overseeing all the productions on this on a more regular basis. That is one thing for sure. To make sure all the tolerances and so forth are met to spec and shipped out to the customer so the customer has the best experience possible. But it's direct to consumer straight from the Taiwan. So it's kind of like taking the Temu and AliExpress concept, but in the bike perspective of it. And instead of warehousing it and all here, the orders get made and the bikes are produced there and shipped directly to the customer. How all that long turn out and so forth, but you're seeing companies doing shifts like this to adapt to the new market or whatever this is, the economy that the bike industry, what's become now. And therefore, you can still get those Revel bikes, and they're going to have probably a new line and so forth, but it's going to be directly there, so they're going to cut out their warehouse, which is brilliant if you really think about it. It's a smaller company. I mean, it's really smaller. They have their own niche off-road mountain bike group, kind of like the Kona thing, but the Colorado version, not as big as Kona, but and Kona had its own heartburn last year to this year, and they're releasing bikes again under the original owner, new old owner. How's that? How often going to happen? But that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of that. So, or are they going to? Well, with Fairlight, for example, they're not going to do that because they're working in hand with Ritchie Tubing. I'm sorry, not Ritchie Tubing, Reynolds Tubing. They make their own draw, but then it's manufactured. Then the frames are sent to them. Then they custom put bits and stuff on there for the customer at the end of the day, which that could be technically done at probably the facility where the frames are actually being welded together and painted. So they probably can do that too. But anyway, I mean, those companies are going to be looking for different leverages of making it more streamlined. And I could totally see the Revel concept be even folded into the big brands, for example, especially on the high-end elite stuff. I mean, come on, when you're looking at a Project One being built, which I think they still have them being painted and built or assembled in Waterloo, Wisconsin, but only on the top end. That may have changed. That might be being done in Cambodia and shipped over. But in any case, they're going to probably even leverage those companies even more, since now they're all going to direct to consumer. That's what's changed here, is the direct consumer aspect of Specialized and Trek and all these other brands of, I mean, Scott just now switched to direct to consumer. So you can link click on the link below in my affiliate lists and partner lists, and yep, you can go get yourself a Scott bike. And then that Scott bike can be shipped directly to you, kind of like the whole Canyon concept. And that's where everybody's been chasing after. And Canyon was, they're not the first, but they took it and made it very efficient. And they said, we can sell high end, and it goes to the customer. Well, Canyon really has their stuff dialed, because for the most part, the bike is pretty much ready to go. They give you the little tools and so forth. The Scott, for example, I think I had a buddy of mine buy one of those, and didn't come with the little torque wrenches and stuff like that. So a little bit behind on there, which he had to purchase some himself to get it, all spec'd out or, adjusted correctly. But at the end of the day, though, they'll definitely step up their game and include all those, informational videos and all that stuff that Canyon has done. Well, Trek has done the same thing and Specialized as well. So you're looking at the whole dynamic. So why, and since those bikes are all coming from overseas, why do they have to be warehoused here anywhere? Why can't it just be directly shipped from Cambodia or Taiwan? I mean, the air freight is, timely costs of having somebody checking in a warehouse and reallocate it out. I mean, the cost of that right there per unit probably offsets the shipping direct from the country, and just as an example. So if you're looking at those particular perspectives. So needless to say, our environment is constantly changing, and it's going to continue to do so. And looking at those little highlighted moments on things, absolutely going to change. So the customer, and regardless if you're buying it from the United States or buying it from Australia or you're buying it from Canada where Joe's at, you click on it to be ordered. It doesn't, you really don't care where it comes from, honestly. As long as it's the best price and the best componentry and the best value and it fits you. Well, fit should be first. That says it all, right? For me, it's the same way. I'd be like, I love that Fairlight. I'll probably go get professionally fitted to make sure I get the frame geometry just right. And yeah, it's a little expensive up front, like $200-300 to get that professional fit, but you get that wrap sheet where you can buy a couple frames off of it, either mountain, road, or gravel, and then you know exactly what you need to do. And this is where it alludes to another company that's just starting up in England, I believe it's England, where it's a fitters. They decided to open up a bike shop, technically-ish, and what they're doing is buying frames from their vendors, and then everything else is parted together. So in other words, you can go on there once it's up and running. The concept is you pick the frame, like I want this Trek Madone frame, but I need this stem, and I want this seat post, and I want this saddle, and I want this crank arm length, not the one that comes with the spec, and I want these particular pedals. And then it gets all put together, and then it gets shipped to you, all ready to go without any part swapping. So therefore, they've seen a huge pinch, which is a huge pinch. If you're into cycling and you bought a new bike in the last 10 years, you definitely have noticed that, well, fit is not usually included at all with any bike purchase. And in the manufactured bikes that are rolled off the floor, usually there's something that needs to be changed out, like the saddle, the stem, the bar, and the crank arm length. They're your contact points. Well, if you're looking at an upper end bike, like I just went on a soapbox about the headset and switching out the bars and cables for the internal routing and all the crap. If that's done originally, you don't have to pay for that on top of all the parts, which is what they have estimated to be at least $1,000 on top of the bike that you just purchased, not including the fit. So if you get a bike right out of the gate that has all the right bits that fit you exactly when you got a custom fitting, bam, that's a win. So interesting, right? Another dynamic of changing of the whole market. I mean, it does kind of take away the ability of walking in the shop and throw your leg over a bike and take it for a test ride and see how it feels. But all of those have ridden bikes for a while and have several bikes, we kind of know the geometry that we feel is better for us. And if you did get a custom fit, one of those fittings, like the Retool or Precision Fit, which I talked about before from Specialized or Trek, or something similar. It doesn't have to be specifically to those, but something similar. They give you the sheet of what your crank arm length should be and your stem length and all your bar width and all that. You can go out and get yourself the fanciest custom direct to consumer frame like Fairlight or Tumbleweed or various others, or you can go have like Black Sheep in Fort Collins, Colorado here. Like, this is my geometries. Make me a gravel bike out of titanium. And I almost can guarantee you, he can build one. You can buy all the parts to fit on that, customize it, and still be under $4,000. And that would be so specific to you and so nice customized versus buying that $4,000 Trek or $4,000 Specialized bike, which you're gonna have to switch all the parts out and actually cost you another $1,000 on top of that. Crazy stuff, right? Nuts, just absolutely nuts. And that's talking about new. So here's the thing I've been thinking about. It's like, what if you could somehow be able to do that with used? What if you could somehow tie into eBay, for example, and click a frame that's been a reputable seller on eBay, and then you get a parts list that will fit on that. Like, okay, what do you want? I want a 10-speed. Gives you the part list of all the parts and the sizes you need specifically to build that out. And then you can just buy it all out, and there you go. You'd have yourself a customized used bike, probably under $1,000, all the bits that you want, or maybe a little bit more, but still, who knows? Maybe that's the future. Let AI run all that, right? All right. Oh, yeah. Thanks for chiming in, Randy. Appreciate it. When you go to Walmart, they don't give you a discount. So why should a bike shop? Fair point. I feel would taken advantage of. My buddy Bradley, John, he's always said that. It's like, why are you discounting yourself? He's told me that several times. Why am I discounting myself? I mean, and to me, in my head, I'm like, well, to, drive more business. Well, you could promote, and if you can find that fine line where you can promote your talent and add the value to that consumer, that they don't need to be driven by the discount to work with you. Unfortunately, in the United States, we're preconditioned to only buy anything that's on discount. It's just ingrained into our marketing and how everybody feels. So essentially, you basically do have to balloon your tune-up rate to, let's say, $150, but realistically, you just need to be paid $100. Then you just say, I'm going to take a $50 off that tune-up, but it's kind of like this shell game, right? It's like, whatever. And unfortunately, there's not enough customers out there or what have you. They're so into the sport, they're going to walk up with their bike and go, do what it needs to be done. Don't call me. And I'll pay for whatever. And they feel comfortable of doing that. And then you feel comfortable charging them appropriately, and so you're paying your time. That doesn't hardly ever happen, ever. I mean, I have a couple of customers like that. But then again, I've worked on several of their bikes. So it's like a relationship I have with them. Like they just roll up and like, there you go. And I'm always going to be a little bit cheaper rate or better quality or whatever than the competition, which is really not competition, or the other shops. But they like to know their mechanic to work on their stuff. So that's where I feel fit the niche of them. A lot of people don't really care who works on their bike as long as it gets worked on, which is fine. But people that do a lot of riding, they realize pretty quick that they kind of feel like they want to know their mechanic. That kind of thing. Because, back in the early 2000s, there was a wall built up and the service department got hidden. And then there's this new thing that popped out. It's called the check-in station or service rider station. The guys up front, they're basically the mechanics that drew the short end of the stick or the short end of the straw, got the short end of the stick, and then they get to deal with customers. And those people are usually they're usually really good people, and they've been in the industry for a long time. But quite honestly, us mechanics, a lot of us are not people. Like they're not people. They're usually introvert people that are really focused on. They really like to be in the back, just tearing apart a motor or a hub or putting things together. They're usually that kind of mindset, mentality. I mean, Bike Farmer had a good little video of why bike mechanics are just assholes, because they come off that way a lot of times because they're just that introvert. But if you break through that shell and you get to know them, they're usually really great people in that force. But the people that usually get thrown up front are the ones that have been, okay, well, you got to sell the chains, you got to sell the cassettes, you got to sell. It's basically they became salespeople of the service department. They're there to sell, and that's where that big shift is. A lot of shops have kind of tapered that back a little bit because they got a lot of bad rap, because all of a sudden they're like overselling. It's like when you get that oil change, and you got that poor guy that comes out, and he's not batting 1,000. He just has like this beated, deflated look on his face, like he's going to come in, he's going to show you your air filter, right? And it might be dirty and gringy, but you're going to go no to that $12 air filter switch out, because that person that's sitting on the other side is going to go, that's an $8 air filter I can go get at Walmart, and it takes me 2 seconds to put that in. But the thing is if you know how to Google it and look it up on YouTube, if you're willing to do those two little things, you can do that all day long. If you're the person that sits there and like, oh, fuck it, just do it. Then you have that. So, but that poor tech that comes out, he knows it's either going to be a win or it's going to be a hard no. It's like, and yeah, all depends. Because that's what their job is, and that's where it filters into the cycling, bike shops, and so forth. And it's like, of course, I'm going to tell people your brake pads might be a little bit low, or your chain might be getting close to stretched. But I also give them the opportunity, like, hey, you might be able to get a little more life out of this. All depends of how kind of riding and so forth. Do you want to see me in another 3 months, or do you want to see me maybe next spring? It's better to kind of give them the option versus some shops are like, oh, your chain is stretched, that's going to be a catastrophic failure, and it's going to cause all this damage to everything else. Well, that's the scare tactic of some shops have done over the past, and believe me, that doesn't go over well with the customers I have talked to that have been into shops like that, even recently. Another case in point, that bike is too old. We don't think it's safe, so buy a new one. That doesn't go over well at all either. They will be polite, and they're like, oh, okay, let me go think about it, and they'll be nice. Maybe I'll bring back my significant other, and we'll go look at bikes or whatever. They walk out there, and you will never see them again. Because they just, you really rubbed them wrong in such an insulting way, because you do not know if that bike is basically something that they're attached to, or they just like riding it, when a lot of people give names to their bikes. So if it needs that much work, and I think Bark Farmer had a video on one, like some guy put $400 into like a Trek 800, which was a $200 bike at the time, new. But at the end of the day, you don't know. That customer may be like, I want this to ride. I love this bike. It was given to me by my grandfather, or whatever. It doesn't matter what the story is. If they're attached to it, that's all you need to know. And then you need to treat them, they're attached to their bike regardless. And there's, you got to be very, 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 very subtle. And you still may not lose, you may not win at all if you try to talk them into a new bike. But you can say, hey, what kind of other riding you want to do? Kind of instead of changing the subject, you're changing the type of riding. It's like, well, do you find yourself more on road versus riding this? Do you find yourself on the bike paths a little more? That might be a better segue. But there's a lot of different ways out there for sure. Anyway, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is, that kind of thing. Oh, we're wrapping up. Oh my God, 2 hours fly by. Back home. Yeah, sorry the other videos were a little shorter. On location, I didn't want to sit in Swanee's shop too long, and even though they seemed very light and polite, and I did hang out there a little bit longer to check out their stuff, but I know I was interfering with their daily routine. And if you're in Las Vegas, and if you have the opportunity to go check out their shop, I highly encourage you to go talk to Zebby or Joseph. Two really cool cats. They have a couple other employees there, and I'm sorry, I forget their names. Again, I could tell you what they ride, but not what their names are. But the thing is it's really cool vibe. Pick out, maybe they'll give you the direction of where to ride. Mountain riding apparently is like super damn close there. Like, if you huff it, you're in a trailhead in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. They don't do rentals there yet. They're looking into doing some mountain rentals, that kind of thing. But if you have a bike or you're traveling with a bike and you're there for a conference and just need to get out of your freaking head for a day or half a day, just go for a ride. They'll point you in the right direction, get you set up. And if you're locally to them, check them out for service. They do good work. They're very well skilled. Checking out their service department for being a bike mechanic for a long time and been in a lot of different shops, they got their crap dialed. It's good, it's clean, even though they did a little cleaning before I showed up, which, I did a little bit of cleaning, but I told them, like, don't worry, I'm a bike mechanic. I live in a constant train wreck. It's like I'm just one project up to another after another. Sometimes I don't get to do the full sterile cleaning. Over sterile cleaning usually means you're not that busy. So I usually went a little messy shop. But anyway, they had well-organized tools. They had their waxing station. For chains, they have a spoke cutter. So if you need a spoke for a weird size, they can take care of there. They do wheel building too. And they do have that suspension guy. So if you do need a shock done or worked on, they have a readily available access to somebody in-house, which is a different company, but within their own grasp that they actually can work on. So that's freaking awesome. Like, it's just kind of like a flex space. I mean, that'd be the best bike shop ever, right? You have Justin, the old bike guy, and then you have Josh, the e-bike guy. He's over in this corner, and then you have somebody else that does the suspension, or whatever, mountain bike stuff, and then be all in house. But you have separate businesses and call it all good. That'd be interesting to see if you can come up with something like that. But it is a good place to check out. And there's awesome riding. Mountain and road is very specific for the Vegas area. This time of year, you got to start your ride really early. But come on, if you're an early bird and you want to hit the path or the trails by 6 a.m. and get your ride in, and see some really cool, this is really cool. It's really nice riding. I've been ridden in a lot of different places, and that was definitely up in my top 10 places to go ride for sure. It's a lot of fun. And they're a good crew too. If you're on the west side, yeah, it's on the west side, more southwest side, where my condo is more close to. There's another shop called Pedal and Pour. They're more road-centric. They do rent road bikes there, so you can rent them there. And also, they have a coffee shop, a decent size, not like a little coffee station. It's actually a coffee shop within their store. So they do group rides as well out of there. They do two of them a week. One's a no drop, another one's aggressive all out. So keep in mind which one you're going to join. And then there's a whole bunch of clubs, apparently. There's like I ran into a senior club. I mean, I said, hey, you want an honorary mechanic? Because I'm just as slow as you guys. I can go bring up the back all the time, all day long. Not a problem. Happy to do so. But there's a lot of different clubs out there and so forth. So yeah, that's probably within a lot of communities. If you're an avid cyclist and you're doing some traveling for work or what have you, or vacation, you could either pick up a rental or go for a ride. You know, a lot of shops, the most part, are really catering to sharing their experiences of their community and riding. I mean, they were just like, love to talk about the riding out there. It's like, we love this and we have all these great things and, you know, go do them. Even out riding, a guy was like, no, you got to go here and you go up around and you got 30 miles in you. Let's do this. You know, like, okay. And you're like, it just took me a tour. Like, this is awesome. Now it's just get on the bike and point it out. I mean, there was such a huge, the quantity of people riding out there is really cool. Obviously not on the strip, but you know, the round, it's like everything is bold, which was really kind of fun for me. Is like wherever I started at home or at the condo I was at is all uphill at the beginning. So not like uphill, but you know, a gradual uphill. So when I got kind of to the point like I need to turn back, it was a fast back return. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, kudos to the Vegas people out there in the cycling community. Great scene, that kind of thing. I had a great time out there. And we have the same kind of community cycling experiences here in Colorado as well, especially in the all parts of Colorado for the most part, but northern Colorado where I live, we do have quite a few groups. We have a lot of bike paths. You can ride around all the time and I'll be on the same bike path twice all day long if you wanted. So it's good riding. We have several places here where you can rent to, go out for a day and just have a great time out there for sure. All right, let me check up on some comments here and shout outs. Randy, again, thank you for joining us. Michael, thank you for jumping in as well. Joe, of course, I appreciate you. Love your videos too. Very, very relaxed. If anybody wants to just watch a guy hang out and make paddles for kayaking and what have you, and also do a little bit of mountain biking, gravel biking, he does it, and he has a couple. One of the ones I watched, it was really cold, like winter, like the shining winter cold. He's out there, gonna go for a ride. It's like, good for you, man. So awesome. Yeah, the bike farmer video, Joe. Yeah, it was pretty funny. That was the bike mechanics or a-holes, or that was his hit, took off. And he's had a couple. Not all of the stuff, you know, for me it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's hard to watch. A lot of time I don't have time. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's watching me watch my own, I already watch myself do my own stuff, video editing. So it's too much, just too much for me. But hey, watch his stuff, it's great. You know, he's an interesting guy. It may not resonate with everybody, which is fine too. Everybody has their own thing. Some people like me more than him. Some people like him more than me. It is what it is. Ozark. Local bike shops provide value to their own way. Big box stores cannot. Of course, they just don't have service departments and that kind of thing. Local bike shops near me drum up business with various summer tune-up deals and such. I guess it works to raise revenue. Well, yeah, I mean, it was one thing to discount it and it's one thing to promote tune-ups and whatever. I mean, as long as you still see the value of it as a consumer and as well as the provider of the tune-ups, you don't feel like you're giving away the farm, because if you feel like you're just giving it away, you just get mad. So you got to find that happy medium that both of you got, you know, both of the consumer and the bike mechanics or the service department or bike shop owners, it's a win-win or feel comfortable with, for sure. You know, Amano Paulo, talking about the chop shop, bike shops is probably easier. There is some components that is easier, honestly. It just is, because It's just easier to ship, smaller boxes. You don't have to worry about the fit and that part. If you sell a full bike and there's something a little bit off or wrong, they can come back. So you got that part of it. But on the flip side of it, when you're selling a full complete bike, you feel like you have it's a different sensation of like a completion. Or when I sell it locally and fitting somebody on a bike and they're getting on their first riding experience for a long time and getting back into cycling, it's so uplifting in a sense in that perspective. So there's benefits to both for sure. But yeah, I mean, it can be a little bit easier. And then the failure rate, like, oh, this bike has a bad derailleur. Well, I'll sell the rest of it off and still make a profit. If you have a bike that went out and you have a very little margin on it and something goes wrong with shipping, yeah, that's a whole thing where you can be in the negative. And even if you're in the positive, you can still be in the negative because you spent so much damn time trying to finish the problem and all that. So there is yeah. So yeah, it is. You can find it pretty a lot easier for sure. And again, those parts being available for people that like myself, that refurbished parts, and make sure they're good to go. Like Ben Cycles, he's on another. I don't know if he has a YouTube channel, but he has. I see him on Instagram quite a bit. He sells like the refurbished rear Dura-Ace rear derailleurs and stuff like that. It's like the cat puts a lot of time into it and make sure it's right out the door, that kind of thing. And then again, if you have one part that comes back bad, you're not a total loss. It breaks down it limits the pain point for sure when you sell it online, for sure. Absolutely. Oh, Randy, thank you. Duh, man. I'm not the guy. Good comment, though. Mark, thank you for joining us. I know it's a little bit late. I'm about ready to jump off, but please rewatch the replay. Any of you watching on this replay, thanks for checking in and chiming in. Put comments below if you had any shared experiences and so forth, for sure. If anything that sticks out, that's like, I have a little bit of insights on that. This is the community that I'm trying to build, or have been building, between bike shop owners, bike mechanics, avid cyclists, all together, including my customers. Sometimes they listen and they get enough of earful of me that they don't need to see me, which is fine. We're all legends in our own minds, right? For sure. Oh, cycling, it's a 4-season thing. Up here, it means winter riding for sure. Absolutely. That brings me to the point of moving somewhere else other than Colorado. Okay, Colorado, we got mountains, right? A lot of people, it snows, skis and snowboards come out, snowshoes come out, but you have a thing for winter, right? Because we have mountains. We go up there and we go do our mountain things. We go mountain camping and play, sledding and all that, because we have these mountains, that kind of thing. So it's definitely a multiple sport place. And one funny fact about Colorado is when somebody moves here, they feel like they have to do everything. So they buy all the crap for every activity, from kayaking to paddleboarding to fly fishing to mountain biking to road riding to then the winter kicks, and then they're like cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, snowboarding, ice fishing, like all of a sudden they realize pretty damn quick that they don't have enough time in their lives to do all of these. So they overdo it, and all of a sudden they're dumping the stuff that they don't really get into. So therefore, there's some really good bike opportunities for the used market, or whatever outdoor activities stuff is usually pretty plentiful here in Colorado on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Just a heads up. Because obviously you just don't have that much time in a day, and there's not that many weekends to be able to do all those things. Therefore, you have all these different activities that go around the world, or around the year. Not around the world, but around the year. Here's the interesting bit. When I was in Michigan, they didn't really have that many winter activities. A little bit of cross-country skiing, no freaking hills really for mountains. And they are very pigeonholed to what activity, and the environment is, if you're into cycling, like Joe probably is in his environment, that's what you do year-round. And however harsh the winter was, They had the gear for it. They had the bikes for it. They had the clubs. They had the races. They have the Iceman in Michigan. They have all these like fat bike races. Nuts. I don't think I've seen anything like this in Colorado because we shift gears and do something different. Here, they just keep going. They just get another bike and more equipment for it and layer up and go. It was amazing. Pretty impressive. But their bikes were trashed. I mean, the level of repairing on the bikes there was just horrifying because they salt the roads. Here they do mag chloride and sand. There was like rust everywhere. And in the summer times, they have a lot of dirt roads. They put this chemical compound on the dirt roads that can knock down the dust. It's super corrosive. So if you ride on it right after they freshly sprayed the dirt road, it will eat your skin and seize up everything on your bike. I saw it in real time, like, wow, that stuff is just horrifying. So between that and the harsh winters, anybody's like a commuter bike gets destroyed. I mean, it was just insane. In any case, you know, there are different environments, different places, different things. It's, you know, it's all part of the game, right? It's all how it all is. Well, in any case, I should let you guys go so I can start working on this guy. And I got some other projects to work on. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you had any kind of insights and so forth you wanted to share with the community, please put it in the comments below. Please like it and subscribe if you do feel like you like it. Hit that little thumbs up. That helps it get out there. And yes, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope you have some great beginning of the week. And again, it is World Bike Day, so do something with your bike. Either give it a little love, wash it off if you can't go for a ride, or go for a ride. Just take 20 minutes out. Doesn't take much to get that heart pumping, get you out of your head. You know, just kind of let it flow. Don't let all these stresses hit you too much, especially you guys in the States. Let's just take a deep breath. Remember what's important to us, and just have a great day. Thanks again for hanging out within the garage. And if it's, you know, obviously nice in your neck of woods, go for a ride. And yeah, please comment, chat, be part of the community. Hope you like the videos that you've seen so far. If not, you know, say something. But, you know, do what grandma says. If you can't say anything nice, don't say it at all. In any case, enjoy your day. And yeah, I'm going to crank on this Tequila Sunrise Marlin 7. Thanks again. Absolutely. It's been a treat and a pleasure. Oh, wait.